My brother convinced my best friend, the girl I loved, that I'd never make a move on her, just so he could ask her out and be with her. I blocked them both and moved on. But then, 6 months later, I got an emergency call from the hospital because she needed me. When I was 22, I brought flowers for my best friend to tell her how I feel, and she stepped out wearing my brother's sweatshirt and smiling at me like I hadn't been in love with her since we were 13. Jules had been my best friend for half my life. She was the kind of girl who brought snacks to class but forgot to bring a pencil. We met in 7th grade. She tripped over my backpack and landed hard on the pavement. I helped her up. She called me an idiot for leaving my bag in the middle of the hallway, and then asked if I wanted to skip gym with her. That was it. We became inseparable. Late night FaceTimes, summer movie marathons, sitting on her roof and talking about life like we were the only two people on earth. Over the years, we both dated other people, but none of it ever stuck. It always felt like no one got us the way we got each other. She even once joked that if we were both single at 30, we'd get married. I laughed, but I never forgot it. My older brother Eli knew how I felt. I told him a million times. He always acted like it was dumb. He'd say things like, if you haven't boned by now, she's not interested, or you're confusing friendship with love. But I knew I wasn't. I knew how she looked at me when I made her laugh. I knew how she'd call me first whenever her life fell apart. When Jules finally broke up with her long-term boyfriend, I told Eli I was going to tell her how I felt. I even said I was scared, but ready. He gave me this look I couldn't place, then clapped me on the back and said, go for it. I picked up sunflowers because they were her favorite. I even put on my best and only suit. I practiced what I was going to say the whole drive over. It wasn't going to be perfect, but it was going to be honest. When I turned the corner to her street, I saw Eli's car in her driveway. At first, I thought maybe he just stopped by. Maybe he was picking something up for me. I sat in my car with the flowers in my lap for almost 10 minutes, getting ready to step out, and then her porch light came on. She stepped outside, barefoot, hair still damp like she had just showered. She had on a hoodie way too big for her. It was Eli's Attack on Titan hoodie, which I had ordered special for him last year. She picked up a takeout bag from the porch, and she laughed. That laugh I had waited years to hear again, just for me. Only now it was aimed back inside, like someone was waiting for her. I didn't get out. I didn't knock. I didn't say a single word. I left the flowers on her step like a total coward and just drove away. An hour later, I got a text. That was sweet. He loved them. She didn't say Eli's name. She didn't have to. My stomach dropped. I didn't reply. I didn't sleep that night, or the one after. When I finally saw Eli again, I asked him straight up if he was seeing her. He shrugged like it was no big deal and said, you never told her how you felt, man. What did you expect? He said it so casually, like none of it mattered. Told him I was going to. I told him that night was supposed to be the night. He just laughed and said, guess you were too slow. The worst part? I still tried to be normal with her. She started dating Eli officially, and I was still the guy who helped her fix her resume and drove her to the DMV. I was still the one who listened when she needed to vent about work. I convinced myself it was fine, that maybe I just wasn't supposed to have her. Then we had a group dinner at Jules' apartment. Jules sat next to Eli. She leaned into him like it was nothing. Halfway through, Eli went up to go to the bathroom. She looked at me and said, you're the only person who really understands me. I need you to help me write a speech for Eli's birthday. I just smiled, but something in me cracked. Later that night, we were cleaning up. I found a note tucked in with some junk mail addressed to me. She didn't notice as I picked it up. Inside, it said, I think I've been in love with you all along. I'm just scared. I don't want to lose what we have. It was dated the day before I showed up with the flowers. I stared at it for 10 minutes. I don't even remember breathing. Then I put it back. Didn't say a word. I went home and blocked them both. Jules had loved me all along, but chose my brother over me in the end. That was 6 months ago. I'm doing better now. At least I thought I was. Because last night I got a text from an unknown number. It said, I miss you. I think about you every day. I didn't respond at first, but I didn't delete it either. One of my friends texted me soon after and let me know that Jules and Eli broke up. I stared at my phone for a good hour. I even typed out a few responses, then deleted them. I finally went to bed around 3 a.m., still not sure what to do. The next morning, I woke up to 3 more texts from the same number. I knew who that was. They were all from Jules. She kept saying how sorry she was and how much she missed me. I still didn't respond. I went to work like normal. I'm a graphic designer at a small marketing firm. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills. I couldn't focus on anything. My boss Willie noticed and asked if I was okay. I just nodded and said I didn't sleep well. He didn't push it. After work, I went to the gym to clear my head. I was halfway through my workout when I spotted Eli across the room. We hadn't spoken since I blocked him. He saw me too. For a second, we just stared at each other. Then he walked over. I almost left right then. Hey, he said, like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't betrayed me in the worst way possible. I just nodded and kept lifting. He stood there awkwardly for a minute. Jules and I broke up, he finally said. I heard. I didn't look at him. She's been asking about you. Says you won't answer her texts. I put the weights down and grabbed my towel. Not my problem. He grabbed my arm as I tried to walk away. Look, I know I messed up, but she really misses you. I yanked my arm away. You both made your choice. I walked out without looking back. When I got to my car, I had 5 more texts from Jules. She was asking to meet up for coffee. Said she needed to talk to me. Said it was important. I still didn't reply. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about that note I found. About how she said she loved me but was scared. About how quickly she jumped to Eli after that. None of it made sense. Around midnight, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and saw Jules standing there, hugging herself in the cold. She looked like she'd been crying. I almost didn't open the door, but some part of me still cared, I guess. What are you doing here? I asked as I opened the door. She looked up at me with those eyes that always got me. You wouldn't answer my texts. I didn't invite her in. It's midnight, Jules. I know. I'm sorry. I really need to talk to you. I sighed and stepped aside. She walked in and looked around my apartment. I'd moved since the last time she was over. Got a new place after everything happened. Needed a fresh start. Nice place, she said. I didn't respond. I just stood there with my arms crossed, waiting for her to say whatever she came to say. She sat down on my couch without being invited. Classic Jules, always making herself at home wherever she went. I stayed standing. Eli and I broke up, she finally said. I know. I made a mistake. She looked up at me. A huge mistake. I didn't say anything. I'd imagined this moment so many times over the past 6 months. Her coming back, saying she was wrong, but now that it was happening, I felt nothing. Or maybe not nothing, just numb. Did you mean it? I asked. The note. Did you mean it? She looked confused for a second, then her eyes widened. You found that? I nodded. Yes, I meant it. I was going to give it to you that night. But then Eli showed up and what? I finally sat down, but on the chair across from her, not next to her on the couch. He told me how you felt about me. Said you'd been in love with me for years, but were too scared to say anything. Said you'd probably never make a move. I felt my jaw tighten. And I got scared. I thought about what would happen if we tried and it didn't work out. I'd lose my best friend. So when he kissed me, I don't know. It seemed safer. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Safer. You chose my brother because it was safer. She winced. I know how it sounds. Do you? Because it sounds like you knew how I felt, knew how you felt, and still chose him. She looked down at her hands. I know. I messed up, but I'm here now. I got up and paced around my living room, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet. The whole situation felt surreal. 6 months of silence, and now she was sitting on my couch like she had a right to be there. The soft glow of my lamp cast shadows across her face, highlighting the nervous way she bit her lower lip, a habit I used to find endearing. Why now, Jules? What changed? I asked, my voice echoing in the quiet apartment. She wiped at her eyes, smudging her mascara slightly. I missed you. Every day. Eli was. He wasn't you. Her voice cracked on the last word. I stopped pacing, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. That's it? You missed me? After 6 months of nothing? The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. I tried to call you. I texted. You blocked me. She was getting defensive now. now, her posture straightening. Classic Jules move when backed into a corner. I'd seen it countless times over our years of friendship. Yeah, after finding out you chose my brother over me even though you supposedly loved me. I ran my hands through my hair, tugging slightly at the roots. Do you have any idea what that did to me? Do you have any concept of how it felt? She stood up and took a step toward me, her familiar vanilla perfume wafting through the air. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. Her eyes pleaded with me. I took a step back, needing the distance. This wasn't forgetting to return a book. You knew how I felt. You felt the same way. And you still chose Eli. The betrayal still felt fresh, like a wound that refused to heal. I was confused. I was scared. She was crying now, tears streaming down her cheeks, leaving trails in her makeup. Can we get coffee tomorrow? Talk this through properly, please? I wanted to say no. I really did. But some part of me, the part that had loved her since we were 13, sitting next to each other in biology class, couldn't do it. Fine, coffee. That's it. My resolve was weaker than I wanted to admit. She smiled through her tears, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Thank you. After she left, I couldn't sleep. My bedroom felt too hot and too cold. I kept replaying everything in my head. The note I'd found in her purse when she asked me to grab her wallet. The hoodie, Eli's hoodie, she was wearing when I showed up with sunflowers. Eli's car in her driveway that night. By morning, I was exhausted and confused. Dark circles under my eyes. I almost texted to cancel, but I didn't. Something pulled me toward this meeting, despite my better judgment. We met at our old spot, this little cafe halfway between our places, with the chipped blue mugs and the barista who always remembered our orders. I got there first and grabbed a table in the back, away from the windows. She showed up 10 minutes late, which was actually early for Jules. She always ran on her own time, existing in what our friend group called Jules' Standard Time. Hey, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. She looked better than last night, less puffy-eyed. Her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, a few strands framing her face. Hey, I'd already ordered my usual black coffee. The waitress came over, and Jules ordered her complicated latte with extra everything. Caramel, whipped cream, an extra shot, and cinnamon on top. Some things never changed. We sat in awkward silence until her drink arrived. This had never happened before. We'd never run out of things to say to each other until now. The cafe buzzed around us, other conversations filling the void we couldn't seem to bridge. So, she finally said, fidgeting with her napkin, how have you been? I almost laughed. How have I been? After my best friend and my brother got together behind my back? Just great, Jules. Living the dream. The sarcasm dripped from my voice. She flinched, her shoulders hunching slightly. I deserve that. Yeah, you do. I took a sip of my coffee, the bitterness matching my mood. Why are we here? Really? She looked down at her drink, swirling the whipped cream with her straw. I told you. I miss you. I made a mistake. With Eli or with me? I leaned forward, challenging her. Both. She reached across the table like she was going to touch my hand, but I pulled back. Her fingers lingered on the table before retreating. Eli and I, it was never right. We fought all the time. He's not like you. I sat back in my chair, the wood creaking under my weight. So what? I'm your backup plan now that things didn't work out with him? No, it's not like that. She looked genuinely hurt, her eyes wide and pleading. I've been thinking about you this whole time, about us, about what could have been, while you were with my brother. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and accusatory. She didn't have an answer for that. We sat in silence again. I watched her stir her latte, adding even more sugar from the little packets on the table. Some things never changed, like her sweet tooth that defied all logic. Do you and Eli still talk? She finally asked, her voice small. I frowned, my coffee cup pausing halfway to my mouth. What? I was just wondering if you and Eli still talk. After everything, she wouldn't meet my eyes. Something felt off. The question seemed loaded, like there was more behind it. Number, I blocked him too, remember? Haven't spoken to him since that night. She nodded too quickly. Right, of course. I need closure, you know, with both of you. And there it was. The real reason for this meeting. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. You don't miss me, do you? You miss being chosen. Her eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. What? No, that's not. You're here because Eli dumped you, and now you're trying to make sure you don't lose me too. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. You don't want me, Jules. You just don't want to be alone. That's not fair. She was crying again, mascara smudging beneath her eyes. I do miss you. I do care about you. Maybe you do, but not the way I need you to. I dropped some cash on the table for my coffee, probably more than necessary. Goodbye, Jules. I walked out without looking back. This time, she was the one staring at a door that never opened. The irony wasn't lost on me. I drove around for hours after that, the radio playing softly in the background. I ended up at the beach, just sitting in my car and watching the waves crash against the shore. The rhythmic motion was soothing, hypnotic. My phone kept buzzing with texts from Jules, but I didn't read them. I was done. The afternoon sun cast long shadows as it began its descent toward the horizon. When I finally went home, I found Eli sitting on my doorstep, hunched over his phone. Great, just what I needed. He looked up as my car pulled in, his expression a mixture of guilt and determination. What do you want? I asked, not bothering to hide my annoyance as I slammed my car door. He stood up, brushing off his jeans. Jules called me. She was pretty upset, and I crossed my arms, keeping my distance. And I wanted to make sure you're okay. He shoved his hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. I laughed, a harsh sound that didn't contain any humor. Now you care if I'm okay? That's rich. I pushed past him to unlock my door, the key sticking slightly as it always did. He followed me inside without being invited. Apparently, boundary issues ran in the family. The living room still held traces of Jules' visit from the night before. A water glass on the coffee table, the cushions slightly indented where she had sat. Look, I know I messed up, he said, hovering near the doorway. But Jules and I are over, for good. I turned to face him, studying my brother's features that were so similar, yet so different from my own. Why are you telling me this? Because she loves you, man. She always has. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit we both shared. I shook my head. Number, she loves the idea of me, the safety net, the backup plan. Eli sighed, his shoulders slumping. That's not true. She was a mess after you blocked her. She talked about you constantly. While she was dating you, that must have been fun. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. He had the decency to look embarrassed, his cheeks flushing slightly. It wasn't great, but that's why we broke up. She couldn't get over you. I didn't know what to believe anymore. My head was spinning with conflicting emotions. Just go, Eli. I'm tired. And I was, bone deep exhausted from the emotional whiplash of the past 2 days. She's at Angela's place, he said as he headed for the door. If you change your mind. Angela was Jules' roommate from college. They still hung out sometimes, sharing a love for obscure indie films and craft beer. I didn't respond. I just closed the door behind him and collapsed on my couch, the same spot where Jules had sat the night before. The next day was Saturday. I woke up to more texts from Jules, and now some from Eli too. I ignored them all and went for a run, pushing myself harder than usual. I needed to clear my head. The morning air was crisp, filling my lungs as I pounded the pavement, trying to outrun my thoughts. When I got back, sweaty and slightly out of breath, there was a package on my doorstep. No return address. I opened it cautiously, half expecting something dramatic. Inside was a photo album, our photo album. Jules and I had started it in high school, adding pictures every year. I thought she had it. I flipped through it slowly, sitting on my front steps. There we were at prom, both with different dates, but somehow still in most of each other's pictures. There we were at graduation, making stupid faces with our caps askew. College road trips in my old Corolla. Her 21st birthday when I held her hair back all night as she hugged the toilet. My dad's funeral, where she didn't leave my side for 3 days straight, bringing me food I didn't eat and making sure I showered. At the end, there was a new picture, one I'd never seen before. It was from that night 6 months ago. Me, standing on her porch with sunflowers, looking through her window. She must have taken it before she came outside. outside before I saw her in Eli's hoodie. I looked so hopeful, so nervous, so in love. The sunflowers were bright against the twilight, a splash of color in the fading light. Underneath, she'd written in her loopy handwriting, "The moment I made the biggest mistake of my life." I closed the album and put it aside. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me like this. She'd made her choice. Now she had to live with it. But the image stayed with me, my own face looking back at me, full of hope that was about to be crushed. I spent the rest of the weekend ignoring my phone. By Monday, the texts had stopped. I went to work, trying to focus on normal life again. Willie gave me a new project, which helped keep my mind busy. The familiar routine of coding was comforting, logical in a way that relationships weren't. On Wednesday, I ran into Angela at the grocery store. She pretended to be surprised to see me, but I knew better. This was Jules's favorite store, even though it was nowhere near her apartment. Angela was clearly on a reconnaissance mission, her casual browsing too deliberate to be coincidental. "How are you?" she asked, blocking my path in the cereal aisle, her cart positioned strategically. "Fine," I said, trying to move past her, my own cart half filled with bachelor basics. "Jules is a mess," she said bluntly, not one to hit around the bush. "She's barely eating, barely sleeping," I sighed, gripping the handle of my cart tighter. "That's not my problem anymore." Angela crossed her arms, her bracelets jangling. "She made a mistake, a big one, but she loves you. She has a funny way of showing it." I tried to keep my voice neutral, but the hurt seeped through. "Look, I'm not defending what she did. It was messed up, but I've known Jules for years, and I've never seen her like this." Angela's concern seemed genuine. Her usually sarcastic demeanor softened. I grabbed a random box of cereal just to have something to do with my hands. "What do you want from me, Angela? Just talk to her. Really talk. That's all." She stepped aside, finally unblocking my path. I put the cereal in my cart. "I'll think about it." I didn't think about it, or at least I tried not to. But that night, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Jules and me at the state fair last year, cotton candy in her hair. Jules falling asleep on my shoulder during movie night, her face peaceful. Jules making that ridiculous face she always made when she was trying not to laugh, her nose scrunched up and eyes crinkled. I missed her. Not just the romantic possibility of her, but her friendship, her stupid jokes, the way she always knew what I was thinking. 6 years of friendship, gone in an instant because of one bad decision. The realization sat heavy in my chest. The next day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but it was a local area code, and something made me pick up. "Hello? Is this Marcus?" A woman's voice I didn't recognize, professional and slightly rushed. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Beverly from Memorial Hospital. You're listed as Jules Parker's emergency contact." My heart dropped, a cold fear washing over me. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She was in a car accident, nothing life-threatening, but she's asking for you." I didn't even think. "I'll be right there." I drove to the hospital in a daze, running a yellow light and barely noticing. All the anger, all the hurt, it was still there, but suddenly none of it mattered. Jules was hurt. She needed me. That was all I needed to know. The hospital parking lot was crowded, and I had to circle twice before finding a spot. When I got to her room, she was sitting up in bed, looking pale but alert. She had a bandage on her forehead, and her arm was in a sling. The hospital gown was too big for her, making her look smaller than usual. "You came," she said, sounding surprised, her voice slightly hoarse. "Of course I came." I stayed by the door, not sure if I should come closer. The room smelled of antiseptic and the faint floral scent of whatever they used to clean the floors. "I didn't think you would." She looked down at her hands, one of which had an IV attached. "After everything." I moved to the chair beside her bed, the vinyl squeaking as I sat down. "What happened?" "Some idiot ran a red light, T-boned my car." She tried to smile, but it looked more like a grimace. My poor Civic didn't make it. "But you're okay?" I couldn't help the concern in my voice. "Concussion, dislocated shoulder, some cuts and bruises. I'll live." She looked at me directly, her eyes clearer than they had been at the cafe. "I'm sorry they called you. I never updated my emergency contacts." "It's fine." I shifted uncomfortably in the chair. "Is there someone else I should call? Your mom? Angela?" She shook her head, wincing slightly at the movement. "Mom's in Florida. Angela's coming later." She hesitated, picking at the edge of her blanket. "Eli stopped by earlier." I tensed, my jaw clenching involuntarily. "Oh, I didn't ask him to." He heard from Angela. She seemed eager to clarify this point. We sat in awkward silence. A nurse came in to check her vitals, her cheerful efficiency a stark contrast to the tension in the room, then left us alone again. "Thank you for coming," she finally said. "I know you hate me right now." "I don't hate you, Jules." I sighed, the admission feeling like a weight lifting. "I'm angry. I'm hurt, but I don't hate you." She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I got your flowers, by the way. The sunflowers." That night, I froze, my breath catching. "What?" "After you left, I found them on the porch." She looked away, toward the window where afternoon light streamed in. "I knew they were from you, but you texted me saying he loved them, like they were for Eli." The memory still stung. She winced, closing her eyes briefly. I panicked. I didn't know what to say. I thought you knew I was with Eli and were just being nice." "Being nice?" I stood up, the chair scraping against the floor. "I was there to tell you I loved you." "I know that now." She tried to reach for me, wincing at the movement. I didn't then, not until later, when Eli told me. I paced the small hospital room, running my hands through my hair. "This is insane. This whole situation is insane." "I know." She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I messed everything up. I was scared of losing you, so I pushed you away. How stupid is that?" I stopped pacing, turning to face her. "Why Eli, of all people? Why my brother?" She looked miserable, her shoulders hunched. "He was there. He was safe. He wasn't you. What does that even mean?" I struggled to understand her logic. "It means I was terrified of ruining what we had." She was almost shouting now, her voice echoing in the small room. "You were my best friend, the most important person in my life. What if we tried, and it didn't work out? I'd lose everything. So instead you chose my brother, guaranteeing you'd lose me anyway?" I shook my head, bewildered. "That makes no sense, Jules." "I know it doesn't. I wasn't thinking clearly." She wiped at her tears with her good hand. "And then it was too late. You found out, you blocked me, and I was stuck in this relationship I never really wanted." I sat back down, suddenly exhausted by the emotional roller coaster. "Why didn't you just break up with him?" I tried, multiple times, but then he'd talk about how it would ruin his relationship with you forever, and I'd feel guilty. She looked down at the hospital bracelet on her wrist. He knew exactly what to say to make me stay. That ship had already sailed. My voice was flat. "I know that now." She reached for my hand, and this time I let her take it. Her fingers were cold against mine. "I'm so sorry, Marcus, for everything." I looked at our hands together. It felt right, even after everything, like pieces of a puzzle that belonged together. "I need time, Jules. This is a lot to process." She nodded, squeezing my hand gently. "I understand." I stood up, reluctantly letting go. "I should go. Let you rest. Will you come back?" She looked so vulnerable asking it, her eyes wide and uncertain. "Yeah," I said after a moment. "I'll come back." I visited her in the hospital the next 2 days. We talked about everything except us. Work, friends, the terrible hospital food, the nurse with the interesting tattoos. It was almost like old times, except for the elephant in the room. She was released on Saturday. Angela picked her up, but Jules asked if I could come over that night to talk. I agreed, but I was nervous. I still didn't know what I wanted. Part of me was still angry. Part of me still loved her. Part of me was terrified of getting hurt again. I spent the day cleaning my apartment, a nervous habit that at least had productive results. When I got to her apartment, Angela let me in, then conveniently remembered she had plans. Jules was on the couch, looking better than she had in the hospital, but still bruised, the colors fading from purple to yellow-green. She was wearing an oversized sweater I recognized as one of her favorites. "Hey," she said softly, tucking her legs underneath her. "Hey." I sat in the chair across from her, not ready to be too close. The familiar scent of her apartment, vanilla candles and the lavender detergent she always used, brought back a flood of memories. "Thanks for coming." She adjusted her sling, wincing slightly. "And for visiting me in the hospital." I nodded, noticing noticing the photo album I'd received was on her coffee table. How are you feeling? Better. Still sore. She took a deep breath, her good hand fidgeting with the edge of her sweater. I need to tell you something. Here it comes, I thought. Okay. I saw Eli yesterday. He came by to check on me. Her voice was steady, but I could see the nervousness in her eyes. I tensed, preparing for the worst. And I told him I couldn't see him anymore. Not even as friends. Not for a while. She said it firmly, like she'd rehearsed it. I wasn't expecting that. The admission caught me off guard. Why? Because it's not fair to any of us. This weird triangle. She looked at me directly, her gaze unwavering. I chose wrong, Marcus. I've been choosing wrong for months. I don't want to make that mistake again. I didn't know what to say. Part of me was relieved. Part of me was still skeptical. The silence stretched between us, filled only by the soft ticking of the clock on her wall. I found the photo album, I finally said, gesturing to it on the table. She nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. I left it for you. I wanted you to remember. Us, the real us. Not what happened these past few months. That picture at the end, of me on your porch. The image was burned into my memory now. I took it when I saw you pull up, before Eli called me back inside. She looked down, shame coloring her features. I was so happy to see you there. I thought maybe, but then I got scared again. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. Are you still scared? Terrified, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But I'm more scared of losing you forever. We talked for hours after that. Really talked, like we used to. About everything that had happened. About how we felt. About what we wanted. The night deepened around us, the city lights twinkling through her window. By the time I left, it was almost morning, the sky beginning to lighten with the promise of dawn. So, where does this leave us? She asked as I was heading out. Standing in her doorway with her good arm wrapped around herself, I turned back to her, taking in the sight of her. Bruised, vulnerable, beautiful. I don't know yet, but I'm willing to find out. She smiled, a real smile this time, reaching her eyes. That's all I'm asking for. I went home feeling lighter than I had in months. Not fixed, not perfect, but hopeful. Maybe we could find our way back to each other. Maybe we could even find something better. The next day, I got a text from Eli asking to meet. I almost ignored it, but decided I needed closure there too. We met at a bar downtown, the Sunday afternoon crowd sparse. It was awkward at first, both of us nursing beers and avoiding eye contact, the sports game on the TV providing background noise. Jules told me you visited her in the hospital, he finally said, picking at the label on his bottle. I nodded, tracing a water ring on the wooden table. She told me you did too. Yeah, he took a long sip of his beer, his Adam's apple bobbing. She also told me she doesn't want to see me anymore. She mentioned that. I kept my voice neutral, watching his reaction. He looked at me directly, his eyes, so similar to mine, searching my face. Are you two getting back together? We were never together in the first place, I reminded him. But I don't know. Maybe. Eventually. He nodded slowly, his shoulders relaxing slightly. I really am sorry, you know, for everything. I studied my brother's face. We'd always been competitive, but this had gone beyond that. This had cut to the core of our relationship. Why did you do it, Eli? Really? He looked ashamed, unable to hold my gaze. I don't know. At first, I just wanted to talk to her about you. Tell her how you felt. But then, I don't know. I guess I wanted to see if I could. If you could what? Steal the girl I loved? The bitterness crept back into my voice. If I could be the one who got her instead of you. He stared into his beer, his admission hanging between us. You always got everything so easily. Friends, grades, jobs. I guess I wanted to win for once. I was stunned. The revelation hitting me like a physical blow. That's messed up, Eli. I know. He looked genuinely remorseful, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. I realized it pretty quickly, but by then it was too late. You'd blocked us both, and Jules was, well, she was a mess, talking about you constantly. I knew I'd made a huge mistake. I didn't know what to say to that. We finished our beers in silence, the unspoken history between us filling the gap where words should be. Do you think we'll ever be okay again? He finally asked, his voice uncertain. I sighed, considering the question. I don't know, Eli. That's going to take time. He nodded, accepting the answer. I understand. As I drove home, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the hurt, the confusion, but also the possibility of something new, something honest, something real. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, a beautiful ending to a complicated day. I pulled over and texted Jules. Dinner tomorrow? Her response came immediately. I'd love that. I texted Jules back with the time and place. Nothing fancy, just this Thai place we used to go to all the time. I spent way too long picking out a shirt, which was stupid since she'd seen me in basically everything I owned over the years. I settled on a blue button-down that she once said brought out my eyes. Not that I remembered that specifically or anything. I got to the restaurant 15 minutes early and grabbed our usual table by the window. The waitress Teresa recognized me and asked where I'd been lately. I just shrugged and said I'd been busy with work. Easier than explaining the whole mess. Jules showed up right on time, which was a first. She usually ran at least 10 minutes late to everything. She had her arm still in the sling, but she'd put on makeup and done her hair. She looked good, really good. My heart did that stupid little flip thing it always did when I saw her. Hey, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. Thanks for suggesting this place. I've missed their pad thai. Yeah, me too. I fidgeted with my napkin, suddenly nervous. We talked for hours at her apartment, but somehow this felt different, more official. We ordered our usual dishes, pad thai for her, green curry for me, spring rolls to share. The familiar routine was comforting. For a while, we just talked about normal stuff, her accident, my work, this movie she wanted to see. It almost felt like old times. So, she finally said after the food arrived, I've been thinking a lot about everything. I nodded, taking a bite of curry to give myself a second to prepare. Me too. I want to be completely honest with you, she said, putting down her fork. No more half-truths or hiding things. I'd appreciate that. I tried to keep my voice neutral, but my stomach was in knots. She took a deep breath. I've been in love with you since we were 16. That summer we went camping with your family, and you stayed up all night with me when I was scared of the noises outside. Remember? I did remember. She'd been so embarrassed about being afraid, but I didn't care. We played cards by flashlight until sunrise. Yeah, I remember. That's when I knew. But I never said anything because I was terrified of ruining our friendship. She pushed her food around her plate. Then in college, when you started dating Samantha, I thought I'd missed my chance. Samantha and I had dated for almost a year. She was nice, but there was always something missing. I broke up with her because she wasn't you, I admitted. I just didn't realize it at the time. Jules looked up, surprised. Really? I nodded. Yeah, no one ever measured up to you. She smiled, a small, sad smile. We really messed this up, didn't we? Spectacularly. I couldn't help but laugh a little. The whole situation was so absurd when you looked at it from the outside. When Eli showed up that night, I was actually waiting for you. She looked down at her hands. I'd finally worked up the courage to tell you how I felt. I even wrote that note, but then Eli came over instead. I tried to keep the bitterness out of my voice. He said he wanted to talk about you, about us. He told me you'd been in love with me for years, but would never make a move. She shook her head. Then he said something that really got to me. He said if we tried and it didn't work out, it would destroy you, that you wouldn't be able to handle losing me as a friend. I frowned. He said that? She nodded. He made it sound like he was protecting you, that by being with him instead, I could keep you in my life without risking everything. And you believed him? I couldn't hide my disbelief. I was scared and confused. And yes, I believed him because he's your brother. I thought he knew you. She looked genuinely remorseful. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I sat back, trying to process this new information. Eli had manipulated both of us. The realization made my blood boil, but also lifted some weight off my shoulders. Jules hadn't just chosen him over me on a whim. She'd been tricked, just like I had. When did you realize what he'd done? I asked. Pretty quickly, but by then, you'd blocked us both, and I didn't know how to fix it. She reached across the table with her good hand. I tried to break up with him so many times, but he always made me feel guilty. Said it would ruin any chance of you forgiving either of us. I hesitantly took her hand. It felt small and warm in mine. That's messed up. I know. I should have been been stronger. She squeezed my hand. The accident was actually a weird blessing. Gave me perspective. Life's too short for this bullpoop, you know? I laughed. Classic Jules, finding the silver lining in a car wreck. Yeah, I know. We finished dinner, talking more easily now. The tension had broken, replaced by something that felt a lot like hope. I paid the bill despite her protests and walked her to her car. The night air was cool, stars just starting to appear overhead. So what happens now? She asked, leaning against her car door. I took a deep breath. I think we take it slow. Figure out who we are to each other now. She nodded, looking relieved. I'd like that. I hesitated, then leaned in and kissed her cheek. Good night, Jules. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Good night, Marcus. I watched her drive away, feeling lighter than I had in months. Not fixed, not perfect, but hopeful. The next few weeks were weird. Good weird, but still weird. Jules and I started hanging out again, but everything felt new, different. We went to movies, got coffee, took walks in the park, simple stuff. But there was this undercurrent of possibility that hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had always been there, and we'd just been ignoring it. Eli tried to call me a few times, but I wasn't ready to talk to him yet. I needed space to figure things out with Jules first. My mom asked about him during our weekly call, and I just said we were taking some time apart. She didn't push it, which I appreciated. About a month after our dinner, Jules invited me over to her place for movie night, just like old times. Her arm was out of the sling now, though she said it still got sore if she used it too much. I brought her favorite ice cream and a bunch of those sour candy worms she always hoarded. I have something for you, she said, after we settled on her couch. The movie paused on the opening credits. Oh? I raised an eyebrow, curious. She reached behind a cushion and pulled out a small, wrapped package. It's nothing big, just something I wanted you to have. I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a keychain with a small sunflower charm. Simple, but perfect. Jules, to replace the ones you brought that night, she explained, looking nervous. I know it's not the same, but I leaned over and kissed her. Not on the cheek this time, a real kiss. She froze for a second, then kissed me back, her hand coming up to rest on my shoulder. When we pulled apart, we were both smiling like idiots. I've wanted to do that since I was 13, I admitted. She laughed, her eyes bright. Me too. We never did watch that movie. We spent the night talking, really talking, about everything we'd been too scared to say for years. It wasn't all serious. We still made stupid jokes and threw popcorn at each other. Some things never change. But now, there was this new layer, this honesty that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. The next morning, I woke up on her couch, her head on my shoulder. We hadn't done anything beyond kissing. We were taking it slow, remember? But waking up next to her felt right in a way nothing else ever had. I carefully moved her head to a pillow and went to make coffee. Her kitchen was exactly as I remembered. Organized chaos, with too many mugs and not enough actual food. I found the coffee beans where they always were and started the machine. As I was looking for clean mugs, I noticed a letter on her counter, half hidden under a magazine. I wouldn't have looked, but my name caught my eye. It was addressed to me in Jules' handwriting. The envelope was worn, like it had been handled a lot. I hesitated, then picked it up. The seal was broken. Inside was a letter dated the day before I showed up with the flowers, the same day as the note I'd found in her junk mail, but this was longer, more detailed. Marcus, it began. I've rewritten this letter a dozen times, and it never comes out right, so I'm just going to say it. I'm in love with you. I have been for years. I know this might ruin everything between us, but I can't keep pretending anymore. You're my best friend, my favorite person, the one I want to call when anything happens, good or bad. But you're also so much more than that. I want to know what it's like to be with you, really be with you. I'm scared, but I'm ready if you are. Love, Jules. I stood there in her kitchen, holding the letter, my heart pounding. She'd written this before everything happened, before Eli showed up, before it all went to hell. I see you found it, Jules said quietly from the doorway, her hair messy from sleep. I looked up, the letter still in my hand. You were going to give this to me? She nodded, walking over to take the coffee mug I'd filled. That night, I had it all planned out. I was going to make dinner, give you the letter, and finally tell you how I felt. And then Eli showed up. The pieces were finally falling into place. Yeah, she took a sip of coffee, watching me over the rim of her mug. I almost gave it to you anyway, but then he said all those things, and I got scared again. I carefully folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Can I keep this? She looked surprised, and smiled. Of course. I tucked it into my pocket, then pulled her into a hug. She fit against me perfectly, her head tucked under my chin. We stood like that for a while, just holding each other in her kitchen, as the morning light streamed through the window. We wasted so much time, she murmured against my chest. I kissed the top of her head. We have plenty more. That was 6 months ago. Jules and I are officially together now, and it's better than I ever imagined. Not perfect. We still argue about stupid stuff, and she still runs late to everything, and I still overthink things. But it's real in a way nothing else has ever been. Eli and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. It's not easy, and there are still moments when I get angry about what he did, but he's my brother, and Jules helped me see that holding on to that anger wasn't hurting anyone but myself. We're not back to where we were, but we're getting there. Last week, Jules and I went back to that Thai restaurant for our 6-month anniversary. I had this whole speech planned about how much she meant to me and how happy I was. But when we sat down, she pulled out a small box and slid it across the table. What's this? I asked, surprised. Open it, she said, looking nervous but excited. Inside was a key, her apartment key, on a chain with a tiny sunflower charm that matched the one she'd given me. Move in with me, she said. Not a question, but not quite a demand either. I'm tired of going back and forth between places. I want to wake up with you every morning. I didn't even have to think about it. Yes, we're moving my stuff in next weekend. My lease is up at the end of the month anyway, and her place is bigger. Plus, she has that balcony where we used to sit and talk for hours. I can already picture us there, watching sunsets together. It's funny how things work out. If you told me a year ago that I'd be here, happy and in love with my best friend, I wouldn't have believed you. Not after everything that happened. But sometimes the longest roads lead exactly where you're supposed to be. Jules is calling me from the other room. She wants help picking a movie for tonight. Some things never change, and I wouldn't want them to. I'm the happiest I've ever been, and it's all because I finally got the courage to tell her how I felt. Well, technically, she told me first, but who's counting? I've got to go now. My girlfriend needs me to settle a very important debate about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It absolutely is, by the way. Life is good, really good.